Hey, you guys, it's Mo in the deep end. I am here, and of course, there's a technical difficulty already, but we fixed it, so yay. A lot of you guys have been asking about the Zachariah Anderson trial, and I did not watch it when it was current. I just had a whole mess of stuff going on and didn't really want to get into a trial. I was too busy looking at, who knows, probably Sailor Moon stuff. As you can see, I'm a huge giant nerd, mom of 6, and I just started watching trials and giving my commentary on it. So, without much more than that, let's get into what we have for today, which is me here. No, that's not the one. You will come to know that this is a duct tape and prayer. There we go. Operation here, a duct tape, prayer, and holy water operation. So we are starting out with opening statements. I do have closed captioning on, and we will be doing this at 1.25 speed. It's trying to get it in between that lunch break, although I think the other court decided to go long, so it is what it is today. So without much more than that, I have my notebook, I have my pen, and we can get started. I have added a sound booster.
Well,
Oh, are we doing I'm going to skip the, sorry, I thought that he was doing jury
Thank you.
instructions.
Okay, folks, we'll
There we
hear
go.
now the opening
No,
statements
thank you.
of at least the
It's
district attorney, perhaps both
I need to
parties.
add the blonde highlights again, and then I'll be
Sometimes you'll hear the
it's a little bright.
actor or actress judges on TV talk about opening argument. There's no such thing. These are opening statements. They're intended to be brief roadmap, I guess, to highlight for you things that the party wants you to be looking for in the evidence, explaining what it is expected will be proved. And the district attorney will lead off. And after he's completed his remarks, then the defense has the opportunity to make opening statement now, or if it is preferred by the defense, they can reserve opening statement until a later point in the trial. Again, they're not intended to be argument. That'll come at the end, the closing arguments. And then the lawyers will be trying to convince you. Well, of course, they're always trying to convince you, but they're going to be exhorting you to come to a specific verdict. But these should be generally expected to be brief and informative of what they hope the evidence will show. And with that, Mr. Gravely, if you're prepared, you may make your opening statement.
Councils, ladies and gentlemen, Judge, ladies and gentlemen of the panel, thank you, first of all, for all your service. Can everybody hear me very well so far? This will be several days. There'll be a lot of difficult and some emotional testimony, and I just wanted to thank you in advance for the time and effort and attention you're going to put in this case. This case has a lot of moving parts, and so though the judge has asked that it be brief in his discussion with you, I fear that I need to cover a number of things with you, so I'm going to take the time that I believe that the evidence demands to try to give you a roadmap as to what I believe you will hear in terms of evidence in this case. I start with what I understand Say Beecham will share with you. Say Beecham, I think, will tell you that on May 17th, 2020, she felt her life was finally about to change. She had lived with the defendant in 2012. So this was 8 years later since she had last lived with him on a regular basis.
Okay.
They had
You guys,
three
I'm going to
children
take
together.
it down to
She will tell you that he
1.25
basically
because
came and went as he
his
pleased.
voice.
He had a different household. He did not pay her living expenses or her children's on any kind of regular basis. Sometimes he showed
His
up on
cadence,
weekends,
and
yet he
his voice
expected
at the
and
faster
anticipated.
speed is gonna bother me. So, um, thus far, I'm trying to reserve just judgments. I mean, he's relatively well dressed. I don't know. His voice at the faster speed was much more irritating as a cadence. So, again, trying to keep an open mind.
That they were in a relationship and that simply was going to be enough. In December of 2018, she didn't want to live that way anymore. And so for a variety of reasons, they broke up. And so that relationship, that separate houses, you come when you want, when you mess up, you just beg me for forgiveness or do a gesture that tries to get the same situation where you're always in control, was going to be over. And so for a few weeks, they didn't have any contact. And then slowly but surely, the defendant wanted to have visits with his kids, which of course was fine with her. And he was able to get back in touch with her on a regular basis, trying to get back together with her. Again, trying the cycle of trying to get forgiveness and everything will change. But this time she wasn't going there. It doesn't mean she wasn't nice to him. Doesn't mean there weren't times where she tried out of kindness to explain why this relationship was not happening. Doesn't mean she...
Well, his posture is terrible. Again, ma'am, sirs, and zers. Sorry. If you have a double chin, just own it. Sitting up like this to pretend you don't is not. Look, you're fooling no one. I hate to tell you, you're fooling not one of us. You have a double chin. It is what it is. Go low carb like me. Try to maintain peace.
Didn't have feelings for him in some way, shape, or form based on their history, but she was ready to move on. And by February 17th of 2020, she was on a dating site and she met somebody where she thought maybe this will go somewhere. The person she was in contact with was Rosalio Gutierrez. Now, he was from Kenosha, so there was that was a drive to sort of see what she was going to be able to make of this. But he seemed to love his kids and to have a relationship with his kids.
Question, and look, y'all, I maybe read ahead a little bit at sentencing, but didn't Mr. Gutierrez have at least 3 baby mamas and was not current on child support for any of them? Because I'm gonna tell you, that's the part that's gonna irritate me right off the bat is, look, for the family of the gentleman who's missing or passed away, it is easy to remember your person as a great person, but let's be honest. I do not like this sainthood after death. And it, I come from it. I come to that conclusion and that knee-jerk reaction, honestly. There is a reason actually I didn't cover any of this trial. My first husband's name was Zacariah, and he passed away, and yeah, maybe he had some issues, and maybe he got deemed up to sainthood, after death, and I do not like that. Also, I just didn't really care to hear the name all the time, but Zach is okay. And I figured, why not? Yeah, I don't get why we just can't be honest. We're all people. We've all screwed up a whole lot all the times, most of the times for me. Just be honest. D- No one's usually a saint or a terrible person in and of the whole calculation of themselves. But it definitely bothers me when they paint a loving father as someone who is not current on any of his child support.
Pardon me?
That was before the
Don't
defense testimony.
get brazen with
Oh,
me.
what the heck did Okay, well, apparently we went to
The truth, giving,
sorry
and the
guys.
defense has the opportunity to make
Oh, for
And that simply was going to be enough. In December of 2000, tried out of kindness to explain why this relationship was
sorry.
not happening.
Don't get
Doesn't
brazen
mean
with him
she,
either.
didn't have feelings for him in some way, shape, or form based on their history, but she was ready to move on. And by February 17th of 2020, she was on a dating site and she met somebody where she thought maybe this will go somewhere. The person she was in contact with was Rosalio Gutierrez. Now, he was from Kenosha, so there was that was a drive to sort of see what she was going to be able to make of this. But he seemed to love his kids and to have a relationship with his kids, and she liked that it might go somewhere. Now, this is the early weeks of this maybe relationship, right? It's not exclusive. And so she doesn't feel like she wants to share that yet with her 11-year-old who turns 12. And she certainly doesn't want to share it with the defendant, who is her ex. She knows him, and she is right in the sense that what I'm going to talk about next in the evidence, I'm going to ask you to look for a certain pattern. I'm going to ask you to consider whether the defendant, as I outline the next grouping of incidents, is an individual who shows by each of these incidents that he is overwhelmed with jealousy. You'll hear a number of communications where that is clear even from his own mouth. And that he has an overwhelming need in that jealousy to be in absolute control when it comes to Satan. Each of these incidences can be characterized as a gesture where he demands control, and as he loses control, we'll talk about what the evidence shows comes next. More and more irrational each time, more and more disturbing. And then I'm going to ask you to take a look at whether the defendant in each of these incidences shows you his determination to have absolute control by using every tool available. Using human spies, a person named Steve Lentz, he texts as a lookout for him. His own daughter, age 11 and 12, will tell you I was recruited by him as essentially a spy. And that he's willing to use electronics too. Basically, every way you can spy on another.
Listen, you guys, maybe it's just me as a mama. And look, if God forbid Mr. Moe and I broke up, and we shared custody of the kids, if either one of us was going to go out with a new person, I'd want to know about these new people. I don't want my kids around people that I would find shady. I mean, I don't find that to be incredibly off, but that's just me. Harmony, for the love of all that is holy. Down. So, I mean, just hearing about it, I understand what he's trying to bring to light, but I'm also saying if I were from a blended family, I would not be comfortable with, myself or anyone else bringing my kids around someone they don't know. I mean,
Individual the defendant was employing in regards to Sadie Beecham. So let's talk about each of those incidences briefly.
and I do have a question here. I mean, how many parents put their kids in daycare or in childcare? You ask your kids daily, hey, did anything happen? Hey, where is this bruise from? Hey, what happened here? I- you can say that I use, me asking my kids, how did school go? Could be me trying to collect intelligence on the education system. Since, okay, all right, I didn't know if, John, I don't know that yet. I'm just saying, from the face of it, if he wants to know who mom is hanging out with, that seems plausible to me, but I am not quite sure. I am just listening to the stuff.
April 24th, and this is just a 1-month period where the defendant slowly but surely learns no matter how he imposes himself, he will not get control. And so what culminates at the end of that about a month-long period is Rosalio Gutierrez no longer being alive to anybody who cares about him, to anybody who knows him. So I start with April 24th. The defendant has his 3 children with Sadie at his house. So he has his 11-year-old daughter, whose birthday is going to be the next day, and his two 4-year-old twins at his home. As he is the only adult there. Sadie does not have the kids on that day. So what Sadie does is invites her new relationship, Rosalio, to come over to her home. She has no children there. She's a consenting adult whose children are at their father's. She invites Rosalio to her home. In the middle of the night, she's awoken. She's awoken because her doorbell rings. She looks out and she sees a vehicle that looks like a vehicle that the defendant owns squealing away. The next day, Rosalio and her discuss.
Is there a Ring camera of this? I have it written down in my notes, but, if she has a Ring camera, taking someone look, I'm not saying at this juncture, Sadie is not being truthful, but she is in a custody case and or a broken relationship with the defendant. I would like to have Ring doorbell. Look, I at this point, I wouldn't trust if Zach, said, "Hey, Sadie, squealed away from my thing," because I, there's enough motive to make, the other parent look like a crazy pants person.
Discover that Rosalio's truck has been entered. A letter has been taken from that truck, as well as his car registration, a registration that has his stepfather's name signed on it as the person who signed, I believe, the title, the registration. That's missing from Rosalio's truck that was parked at Sadie's home. The 11-year-old daughter then, by the time police talk to her, she is 12, says that in the middle of the night, she went with her father to the home of her mother, who she normally lives with, Sadie, that her father peeks in the windows at that location. The daughter says the two twins, age 4, are left at his house unsupervised. She actually says, "I didn't feel that was safe." She says,
Okay, was the 12-year-old interviewed by a forensic psychologist at the time, or was this later? How long was she exposed to her mother? I mean, eh, I, I'm trying. I am always skeptical of the state since Rittenhouse, and I am not a lawyer. Look, y'all, I am a mom of 6 who is a smart mouth and does strange things to her hair. So really, I I just want to say that those would be questions I would have, because if you remember back to the Satanic Panic, where a bunch of daycare workers were charged with doing all sorts of shenanigans to kids that turned out to be coached and forced interrogations or very leading interviews, kids' testimonies, I'm always a little bit sus of. If they don't have, a really good, really take very good care not to sort of influence the child to say something. And my guess is being around the mother 24/7 will inspire, certain feelings. I don't know that yet. It hasn't been put into evidence yet, so I don't know. Yeah, if I were a mom, look, point blank period. I'm a mom. You are not putting my 12-year-old daughter into 40 hours of interrogation. I don't care. No. No, no. She is a child, and she is not gonna be your red herring. I have a lot of things I could say about that. But as a mom, your kids getting that kind of interrogated and, 40 hours? No, that's excessive, and that would be a no for me. I'm sorry, police officers, but enough is enough.
Her father, the defendant,
Good lord,
gets the
does he have to shout?
paperwork out of this person's truck. She says her father, the defendant, takes a listening device and puts it in a vent at her mother's home. She says that he summons her over, and she is encouraged to look inside the window of her mother's home. And at that time, she sees her mother and a person she's never met, she hasn't seen before, who she now believes to be Rosalio, in that, I believe, living room of her house through the window. Her father's instructions are, be sure you don't steam the window up because they might be able to see it. This is the middle of the night for an 11-year-old girl the day before her birthday. When a rational mind...
I'm guessing it'll come out in trial, and I'm sorry to keep pausing, but, does, I guess, do Zach and Sadie have a very contentious, child custody thing going on? I believe it was alluded to, uh, but I wanna see, if they did have that because look, I'm not saying anyone would lie, but child custodies are a messy thing.
might be making sure everybody had a really good night's sleep, anticipating a party or a celebration the next day. This is how the defendant chooses to conduct himself. He admits to law enforcement that he had a premonition that something was going on over there, and not only does he admit he went there, but he admits that he encouraged or helped his daughter look in that window. He denies that he put a listening device in. He denies he left the 4-year-old twins behind. He says he brought them along in the middle of the night. Rang the doorbell, needing to
Okay,
show
that
in a gesture, I'm still in control.
so if he's just coming back in their lives, how is he being controlling from another state? I believe if I was watching sentencing correctly, and it's been a couple weeks or so, or a month thereabouts, sorry, summertime with children is just but, crap. Wasn't he in Utah or Colorado doing something? Uh, so he was not in the state, so I guess it's possible if you know, like, computer wizardy magic, unlike me, to keep tabs on people. I don't know. Like I said, I'm trying to keep my things open, but I am asking chat, so I will keep that in mind that there's always 2 sides, um, and try to really be open. I like things that I feel very Sally Jessy Raphael right now, with the glasses and the hair. Okay, I'm trying to keep it all together, and opening statements aren't a place where I'm gonna get everything, so what we are planning to do, guys, is, small portions of this trial every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I will try to let you know that week if it's gonna be, afternoons, if it's gonna be evenings or mornings. My life on summertime, as you can imagine, uh, is a little crazy with all the kiddos. So we try to split up the day a little bit. Today is yucky outside, so they are all playing on their pads, so I get a kind of longer stream day, but just kind of throwing that out there and letting you all know how things are going.
You'll hear that in the defendant's phone when law enforcement apprehend him, in his phone, they find a screenshot that has a section of the registration of Rosalio Gutierrez on it. It has the signature section for the person who is Rosalio Gutierrez's stepfather. And in handwriting, which the daughter will tell you is my father's handwriting, it has Rosalio Gutierrez's home Kenosha address written down. Now, the event I've told you about on April 24th occurs at Sadie's home. The defendant, of course, knows Sadie's home, right? He's been there in the context of the children, etc. This is new. This is information about Rosalio Gutierrez's home. You'll hear Sadie Beecham indicate that also during this time period in April, she finds Olivia to have a phone she didn't know that she had. She looks in the phone. She discovers and knows.
Wait, who's Olivia? Is Olivia one of the twin daughters, or is that the older daughter? Because he only used
That it's the defendant, one of the multiple phones the defendant utilizes. And you'll hear both Sadie and Olivia describe multiple phones. The defendant has a phone that he uses primarily, but he has a couple of other phones, one in particular used to record. She's looking at one of those phones, and she sees the defendant has ordered 2 tracking devices from Amazon. They are auto tracking devices you attach to a vehicle, and that are voice-activated recorders as well. So they have dual purpose for spying missions.
Oh, okay.
Electronics to help you spy. So by now, Sadie has heard from her daughter that there was this.
Does Sadie have a history of drunk driving or any sort of under the influence kind of things? I'm just trying to see this in the context best for the defendant right now. Um, sh so all she gathers from context is that he's ordering these things, not that they're for her. I mean, she just sees from his Amazon account that he's ordering them, not whom they are going to be used for or anything else, if I'm reading this correct.
Invasion of her privacy on April 24th.
Okay.
She knows trackers have been purchased by the defendant. She knows through a number of texts how jealous and irrational he is regarding her beginnings of a new relationship. He is.
Are they going to bring up anything in the past where Zach has acted irrationally, or it just seems like if this is a sort of pattern of behavior, and I'm sure they'll get into this, I should stop pausing the the thing, but I now want to dig a little deeper and, does he have a pattern? This is if you have a abusive, aggressive, and, obsessive relationship pattern, it's going to be over years that you've developed this. So yeah, it does. Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, that doesn't seem. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying from all the Lifetime television I have watched, these seem to be patterns that start small and grow.
Describing Rosalio Gutierrez as beaner, booger, using all sorts of abusive names and terminology for him. On May 8th, Sadie again does not have the children with her, and she is going to Rosalio's home. And based on the suspicions of what I've talked about that have occurred in the last couple weeks, she thinks to herself at some point, you know what? He's probably tracking me. And so she searches her car, and she finds hidden under the car seat of one of the twins a phone that she knows belongs to the defendant, and it's on, meaning it would track her location. On May 8th, she drives to Kenosha, She turns that phone off. There's then a controversy between her and the defendant where he says, well, I just lost that phone. That phone must have toppled out of my pocket when I was working the car seat for one of the twins. Well, we know from looking at the electronics that he was using that phone and using an app he had just loaded on his phone recently, Find My Phone, to track her that very day. And so
Why would he use Find My Phone when Life 360 exists? Yeah, and if he gave her a phone and I mean, there's many different reasons why a phone could be there. I'm not saying yeah, we've got 3 girls and 3 boys. The 3 girls are normal and understand that a shut door means I'm streaming, and, the feral boys, nothing registers. Uh, eh I mean, I understand the state has to see it a certain way, and they have to push things their way, but, it seems yeah. It's not like you put find good lord, how many times have I used Find Phone, and I'm calling from my daggone phone?
things he told her about the circumstances were simply untrue. Instead, we know it was an app that he was using on that phone, connected to that phone, to figure out just where she would go on May 8th. Every time she brings this up, he acts like she's crazy. He acts like all the facts are false. But when you go into the electronics, when you go into his actual phone or computer, when you talk to Olivia, all the things she suspected and thought are actually true. The defendant is again and again fundamentally dishonest with her, acting as if these are all in her head or are accidents. Let's talk about the continuing escalation that this pattern that I've described shows.
So,
On May
at
3rd,
the moment, he's got from what I'm gathering, just breaking this down, so he's got a child's testimony that they went and did something after 40 hours of interrogation and or interviews, and I hope that the defense will bring up the, interviews, and how those things generally work and how kids can be easily led. So she has the phone that she saw where there are trackers, but she never figured out who the trackers were gonna be used for. Maybe Zach had other people to use them for. I look, I'm just giving him the benefit of the doubt right now. And, a phone that a preteen may or may not have hidden under her brother's car seat. Yeah, no, I have not. When I decided I wanted to do the case later, I didn't want to watch any of the interviews. I basically watched, the sentencing. No, I'm gonna be doing the entire trial, but, as a mom of 6 and I have other things that I'm trying to do in between, it'll be Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, shorter like, if I can get a couple to witnesses in, that's what I'm gonna try to do. I may be able to do long streams on Saturdays, but I am going to do the entire trial because I think I'm the only person that hasn't watched it in, law and or adjacent laytube yet. So, we we will just, try to muddle on, and I will ask
13th, Sadie again does not have the children. Again, as a consulting adult, she decides to go down to
consenting,
visit
not consulting.
Rosalio at his home address in Kenosha. Now, I want you to understand what we've talked about. April 24th, May 8th, and now May 13th. Because we are talking about just weeks, just days before Rosalio Gutierrez at this same location seen by those who love him. is essentially dead to those who love him. So now May 13th, we're 4 days away from that fateful day. On May 13th, Sadie goes down to Rosaleo's. She is going down for food and to watch some movies. On the phone of the defendant, when taken into custody, on that phone, we have in the phone recordings of directions that look like GPS type directions, which direct you. They are deleted, but they are recovered. We don't have every one of them, but the pattern of them gets you to Rosaleo's address. This is the defendant's phone that is traveling per those directions that were deleted to Rosaleo's home on the same date Sadie has gone down there. Now, Sadie is in Rosaleo's home. And I want you to picture this, that this is what the evidence will be. Sadie is having one of those conversations you have as you start your meal and you're sitting down to watch something on TV. Rosaleo says something specific to her about, do you want to watch this or something else? Conversations that many of you have had hundreds of times in your life as you begin to start your meal. Suddenly, right after it comes from the lips of Rosaleo Gutierrez, she receives a text on her phone. The text is from the defendant. And the text is an exact quote of what Rosaleo just said to her. It's an exact quote that he's just texted her. Now, he tells her later, oh, that's an accident. I didn't mean to text you. That was just an accident. But his phone at that moment in time is going off a Kenosha tower, not a tower by his home in the Mequon, a Kenosha tower, and it's the tower closest to where Rosaleo Gutierrez lives. So not only do the directions get him there, and by the way, have him arriving at the right time, but his phone places him at that location, quoting what is being said inside Rosaleo's apartment.
Okay, so are we saying that Zach is competent enough with both spycraft, breaking and entering, and bug placement that he was able to get into Mr. Gutierrez's house and or turn Sadie's phone into a passive listening device? I mean, I'm not. That's what I'm trying to figure out. So, does Zach get to be on the next Mission Impossible thing because he knows how to place car trackers? He can turn phones into passive listening devices and everything else. I mean, what they have right now, my mind can come up with a couple different things. Although if he knows how to dual stream and like edit, when you get out, sir, please give me a call because I need your magical powers. Yeah, it does seem like we are putting a lot on the technical abilities, and I have none. So y'all, I'm just shocked as heck that I can work this. But the way it sounds is he would have to break into Mr. Gutierrez's apartment or turn something into a passive listening device to know about these things. Also, screenshots or it didn't happen, woman. Screenshots or it did not happen because I don't trust either parent when it comes to custody things because there's always an angle. And this woman, so wait, let's see. We've got, again, I'm taking notes, so bear with me because I take obsessive, ridiculous notes. So from April 24th to May 8th and May 13th, Sadie doesn't have her children several times. I mean, maybe it's just me, and maybe it's the fact that I don't get free weekends without my kids. I don't know. It just that's those are some questions I have. I do wanna see if there are answers to these questions because right now the state has to prove to me that Zach was able to do all of these things with the technology he has available. I don't know if Amazon, um, sells that or you can turn phones into passive list. Look, I don't know. Like I said, I can barely work my phone, but it does start to open up. This is why Mr. Mo does not watch movies with me because I'm like, that's a plot hole, and that's a plot hole.
I must be in control. Every gesture has the same pattern. I must be in control.
Uh, Pause. So if he has a controlling personality towards females, uh, has his lawyer come out at any time saying that he was difficult to work with, that he didn't listen to her instructions, that he was belligerent, that he was telling her how to run the defense? Because I think that again, if there is this sort of personality pattern of him being a controlling person, wouldn't that exhibit itself in his lawyer-client relationship as well? That is true. Okay. I I'm just trying to again, this is where my mind welcome to the mind of Mo. This is kind of the things that I think of. Uh, so funny story, and kind of side tangent as we know. So my first husband would only spell his name, with a C. There was no H on it because he was like, "No, that's Zach, and I am Zach." I just made me laugh. You guys, like I said, I am going to try to be as open and honest, but these are the questions that I have written down and that I want a pattern shown of. So those are the I'm just letting you into how I think.
By the next day, May 14th, we are now literally 3 days from Rosalio Gutierrez being dead to everyone who knows him. May 14th, the defendant now is looking for a confrontation based on his text messages to Sadie. May 14th, 4:13 p.m. You want me to stop by to meet Junior tonight? 4:41 p.m., half hour later. Still not off this topic. So, you're saying I can stop by and meet someone later. Now, none of Sadie's.
Again, maybe he was a little aggressive at I will yeah, just saying I wanna meet him, I would like to meet h I mean, now if you said, "Heifer, I'm coming over, and if you don't open your door, I'm going to, allegedly kick it open in Minecraft," that would be confrontational. Right now, I just see this as maybe mildly annoying, but thank you. But again, it's well, have not even watched this case, so I am trying to come in because there are so many strong opinions, and I've never seen it.
Communications are inviting him over. Let's make peace. Let's talk. Why don't you come on over? Why don't you two meet? This is the defendant attempting to provoke, but revealing his intentions. This is a communication suggesting I am looking for a confrontation. Here's what Olivia says about the period we've talked about so far. She says, every time I and the twins come over, this is the daughter, I apologize. This is the daughter, age 12.
Oh, so he used her name again. That's twice.
Every time we come over, he leaves and goes to follow mom. Every time we kids come over. She says to law enforcement, I am his spy about mom. I did it to please him. Here's a plan that she describes, age 12, to law enforcement that the defendant has cooked up and convinced her to be ready to implement. A spy operation. You ready? The 12-year-old says, on an occasion where I and the kids are brought to my dad's house because it's a visit, and where I know that my mom is going over to Rosalio's home, the plan is I will call my dad and that my dad will drive us kids back to mom's house, which of course would be unoccupied, right? Because Sadie would have gone to Rosalio's home. So my dad will drive us back to the unoccupied house. It's important I keep a key so that I can get in even though mom's not there. I and the twins will go into the house, and then I will call my dad and tell my dad, even though he's just dropped me off, hey, mom abandoned us and left us alone. This is the 12-year-old telling law enforcement that this is the plan that the defendant devised for her, his spy.
Okay, wait. So he is at the same time, and two things can be true at the same time, but he is at the same time a super spy that has made a passive listening device and or not a fixed GPSs to the cars, but left a cell phone in the car with Find My Phone app. I don't know if Find My Phone app does like the step by step. We have Life 360. I have watched way too much crime dramas, and I have 3 girls that are beautiful, and I'm just like, no, all your phones have. So Life 360, I get a, little blip every time my girls are, say, in a car or something, how fast they went. It's a little spyware-y, yeah, I'll have to admit, but it makes me feel better. I can see that the bus driver isn't speeding. But he chose instead to use, Find My Phone, and, let's see what else. So he's at once a good spy, and then also is cooking up this abandonment plan. Child custody can make people crazy. I'm not saying it didn't happen, I'm just saying this doesn't sound as plausible as he thinks it does.
And she said, at that point, my dad would report this. He would report that my mom had left us abandoned.
Were there any, abandonment reports?
That is the lengths that we're willing to go to get control, to end this relationship. They call it the plan. It's discussed multiple times.
Oh, no, I know that. This is why Mr. Mo will not watch a movie with me. I tend to think about things too much, and when I'm like, "That never happened," or "That doesn't make sense." Again, this is why he won't watch movies with me, because we don't get it through the movie halfway before I'm like, None of this makes sense. That wouldn't work in real life."
Now, on May 16th, 2020, one day before Rosalio Gutierrez is never again seen by those who love him. May 16th. Remember, I told you on May 17th how full of hope Sadie was. Well, here's why. On the 16th of May, Sadie gets a communication from Rosalio saying to her, would you like to come meet my kids? Rosalio has
Wait a
a
minute,
boy,
wait a minute,
11.
wait a minute. Sadie gets a text from Rosalio about meeting his kids, the ones that he still, well, may or may not be current on child support. Look, y'all, if you are I have been there, I have lived the single with kids life. By the grace of God and, thankful for my own, not stupidity, you know, we were kept safe from a lot of the creepos that are out there, but think really long and hard before you let your kids around whoever you're dating. I Look, I didn't do the best when I first got single. I did not. But, just with all the creepo cases going around, let's try to be better. So I think they were together from what? So that's May 14th, and they started dating in so February, maybe I don't know. I'm just be very careful when introducing kids.
And a girl 8. They're at his house for the weekend on the 15th and 16th. And she's being invited for the first time to meet his kids. And they go for ice cream. And I think Sadie will tell you that this is a truly meaningful moment in her life, still today when she thinks about it. Those
Thank you.
few hours she
I've got
spent
like 4
with
pages of
those
notes
kids
already.
and Rosalio. She left for the night. She didn't spend the night. It was the last time she ever saw Rosalio Gutierrez. But it meant something to her because it's not an exclusive relationship, but it felt like her hopes that this relationship was going to build and get bigger and get better and maybe be the relationship for her. It felt like this really mattered. Here's how the defendant was handling that same visit.
That wasn't me.
Her spy Stephen Lenz, who lives just close enough to Sadie that he can see if cars are in her driveway. So he's a good lookout, right? He's a good lookout post. This is the defendant to Steve.
I've not seen this. Is this Sadie, you guys? Why? If it is, sunglasses in the ma'am, look, ma'am, everyone who goes to court, could you at least dress like sort of nice? You're in a court. If I go up to the Delphi, I'm gonna be wearing something nice as I can without sunglasses on my doggone head. I cannot for the life of me. I mean, I'm already deducting personality points for having sunglasses on her head during a court.
Stephen Lenz on May 16th,
Oh,
asking if
okay,
she
thank
has
you.
a car in her
Sorry, I didn't
driveway.
realize that was
Remember, she doesn't have the kids. So whether a car's in her driveway or not is frankly none of his business. But his spy is being employed at that moment. So on the 17th of May, that's the day after this big moment where Sadie met his kids. And Sadie has said throughout this case that it feels like the defendant is some way monitoring all her communications. Everything that she's communicating with Rosalio feels like the defendant seems to.
okay. So did he spoof her phone? And look, y'all, I only know about this because of my Smexy hacker romance novels. But you can spoof a phone, I believe, and then have all of it, I guess, figure out things from the phone. I don't know. There's technological wizardry out there that involves Photoshop that I still haven't gathered. Okay, thank you so much. I thought that was it, but, sentencing okay, I'm glad. I thought, "Oh, for the love of Cheetos, I've done messed it up again." And I'm trying to be more serious here and ask real Sally, Jesse, Raphael questions, but, yeah, it look, some people get attached really quickly, but when you are a parent with single kids, you or single parent with kids, you need to be careful. Eh, yeah, I don't know. The whole thing's a bit sounding it's sounding a lot like the current trial. Like there seems to be a sort of a string I could grab a hold of and, say this is very good and I need it to bear out, but it sounds like they're taking a lot of first person feeling sort of evidence from Sadie right now. Sadie felt like, Sadie feels. And look, if you're going with the breakup, that, you might feel like someone is, they're doing that and things. But unless you can say Sadie had her phone spoofed or Sadie did this, it's um I'm just picking up on a lot of times that he's saying she feels, not we can prove other than this.
That somehow know it in real time. And no one knows how that happened. That's how it is. So at 1:52 p.m., this is literally 8 hours before Rosalio
And if
Gutierrez
he
is
says
gone
literally one more
and dead
daggone
to
time,
everyone
sir, you is not 18, you are not on TikTok, stop saying literally.
who knows him. 1:52 p.m., Sadie texts Rosalio. Sadie says to him in the text, I want to be yours and get more serious with our relationship. Okay, that's how she felt after she met his kids. That's her putting herself out there, right? Not an exclusive relationship, but here it is. So there's some text back and forth. Rosalio calls her at 8:30 p.m. that night. This is an hour and a half before he's never seen again. And she misses that call. His last text to her is at 8:36 p.m., his phone to her phone. She never hears from him again. She tries him on the 18th of May. This is a relationship where they are in communication in some way, shape, or form several times a day during this period of time. On the 18th, absolutely no communication from him. On the 19th in the morning, still absolutely no communication from him. And so finally, she jumps in her car and she drives from the Milwaukee area on that morning. What is going on? Trying to figure out what's happening. And she gets to his home in Kenosha. And she finds that the sliding door is open. You'll see in the pictures, Rosalio Gutierrez has that apartment in an apartment complex that's the bottom floor, and his slider and his screen face right onto the road. So the sliding door is open, the screen is closed, and she looks in, and boy, does she see a lot of blood. And she calls 911.
All right, guys, are we talking about like Jodi Arias levels of blood, or are we talking it's a sad case, but Gannon Stalk levels of blood where you had, maybe a big dinner plate sized puddle and a lot of splatter, or did they have like just the Arias sort of all the blood everywhere? People are people. People are gonna have jerk, things. Like, look, my late husband had a lot of issues. He wanted to be a better person and he never quite committed to it all the way. Um, and it's sad. And I've been honest with my girls about that because it is what it is. But he can be maybe not the most perfect person and still be innocent. He can be not the most perfect person and be guilty. Uh, I just right now it's sounding a lot of like a lot of feelings testimony, and I want to be told the evidence will show this. I very much like in the trial to be told the evidence will show this. Okay. All right. I mean, all right. That's kind of what I was gathering from the way people were reacting to John Gary and some of the other things that have been said, but a lot of this sounds like feeling stuff, and it feels like it was stuff gotten from a child. Now, again, this is just the opening statements. They might have just all the evidence somewhere hidden in their prison pocket. I don't know. But I don't like the state resorting to feelings, first off.
And at the moment she calls 911 and law enforcement gets there, there will be a number of things that law enforcement focus on in their investigation. And I'd ask you to think about these areas of focus as you think about the evidence as it comes in this case. One area of focus is, when was Rosalio Gutierrez last alive to those people who know him? The second area of investigation is, who has the motive and who has any pattern of conduct where they would be a person we should look to as a person who might have finished that pattern, completed that pattern, or acted on their motive and ended Rosalio Gutierrez's life.
So
And then the third,
I'm sure they're going to get into this, and we might just do the state's opening because I know that the other trial is going to get ready to start back soon. But I do. One second. Um, were they looking at other people in Rosalio Gutierrez's life? Am I saying that? I hope I'm saying it right. Um, or did they focus in on Zach fairly quickly? Did they look at any other possibilities? I think it's something that I've written down that I really want answered because it sounds like he had several people that may not have been too happy about that and or about certain money issues in the background. Okay, well I and I wonder if that was at any point just motivated by the kind of testimony they were getting from Sadie because she was the first person on scene.
of course, area of investigation was, where is the body of Rosalio Gutierrez? And I'm not going to belabor that in this opening. You'll hear about very substantial efforts in many jurisdictions involving many agencies to look for the body of Rosalio Gutierrez, which is never found. So on May 19th, okay, so this is 2 days after Rosalio has last been heard from, at 11:07 a.m., the Kenosha Police Department is at Rosalio's address. And they find through their investigation before too long that the last person in touch with him appears to be a woman whose last name is Macias, who received a text from him at 9:27 p.m. on the 17th, okay? And then she texted him back because she arrived at a building she thought was his. Turns out she was at the wrong building, but she thought she was at his building, and she calls him and texts him multiple times over the next half hour. Where
Wait a
are you?
minute, is this another girlfriend coming over to have time with him? That's Oh, well, I've sort of been given the impression of that, but I do like to these are questions that if I were a juror would be directly in my head as soon as he's saying these things, and I know you're not really technically supposed to take opening statements, but these are things that I would want the state to prove. Yeah, I will judge the bloodiness of the scene on my own. Listen, my youngest decided to stuff himself into one of those flexible cat tubes and slide down the stairs on Thanksgiving evening. So it was during the unknown virus from unspecified origins times, you know. So I may have gone a little crazy and my hair was blue with black on it, and so I looked like I had melted a Smurf, but we ran his little behind to the ER, and that bled a lot for being a head wound, but not so much, and okay. Oh, well, that as we do. Uh, did we ever get, also, I have it on here, did we ever get, text messages back from, R Mr. Gutierrez's phone saying that he would like to get to know her better, or they would like to move that relationship from a relation dateship thing, whatever it is that they were having, to, the next level where they're not screwing other people? I'm going to try, so what we are going to try to do is I'm going to try to check with, the other stream because there is a current trial going on. So I might only get this particular, the state's opening statement, and then Friday, I'm gonna try to do a longer stream, probably in the afternoon where I can get to a couple witnesses. That is my plan. So I wanna see how much longer I have to listen to this gentleman because he does have a grating cadence, and I can't figure that out, so okay, so he's not as into her. Uh, yeah, that way well, I just these are the questions that I really like to have answered. Yeah, you could, but it wouldn't be inconspicuous, I don't think, unless you had, like, the very special ninjas from the Jodi Arias case come in and help you, or you had, a dolly. But I would think, carrying a big look, y'all, I am imagining, like, full cartoon rolled, kind of burrito/cigar slash cigar style into a carpet, which is not appropriate. I will be the first to admit it. You could drag a 270-pound person. We're going off into tangent land. So my middle daughter, has a friend who tried to climb a pine tree on a Friday evening. She fell out and broke her pelvis. I had to, and this was back when I was uh, working out, lifting weights. I could deadlift almost 300 pounds, but to carry her body, you know, gently up a hill to my van where I could lay her down flat after assessing for spinal damage and everything, she was maybe only like, I'd say 110 pounds. She was not, heavy. She was trying to help. It was still quite a slog. I was tired. So you could do it. Don't ask me to try to do a reenact enactment. But I mean, unless he had like a dolly pre-planned and was there, I don't know. Oh, yeah, and like I said, she was not really able to help, so she was floppy, and it was very hard to keep her kind of stabilized and I don't know. If you're really angry, I guess, you can go into super Hulk mode. It it would be hard for me. Let's see if hopefully there's
You, she'd never been here before. Are you coming out? That kind of stuff. And there's never again an answer. So sometime after 9:27 p.m., the state's going to suggest to you all that blood results, and Rosalio Gutierrez is no more, to those who know him. They go through family and friends, and no one has heard from him since that 9:27 p.m. time on May 17th through any other method of communication. And so law enforcement focuses on Sadie Beecham. Remember, she called 911. She's still at the scene. She is distraught. She's shaking. She's overcome. And she's really focused. Members of the jury, you'll hear the officer testify. She's really focused on getting her kids safe. She's afraid that the defendant has done this and that her kids might not be safe because of what she sees. And so she is allowed to prioritize that, and then this
So she
investigation.
immediately feels as though this is Zach's fault. I mean, th- I understand as an officer taking this down as a lead, but I don't like that looking at spoiler alerts from the chat that they didn't look at anything else. It sounds like he has some debts that he hasn't paid up. Look, when you are involved in maybe substances that are not legal, like my ex was, there are a lot of shady people in and out. It If you have debts with very shady people, they are not nice when you don't give them their money, and I don't know. It just if I'm a police officer, I'm looking at everything, and I'm taking with a grain of salt that this is a woman in a custody battle, a fairly intense and it looks like, you know, involved custody battle. Oh, yeah, believe me. Oh, yeah. It look, peop and then there's those of us there are patients like me who want to help but end up stiffening up and causing more issues, and we are sorry. We are sorry, we just can't relax. Yeah, I really feel uncomfortable with a 12-year-old question for 40 hours. My mom's heart goes out to the mother who's lost her son, Mr. Gutierrez, wherever he is. My mom's heart does go out to her because, there are unanswered questions. But I also have an issue with trying to get the questions or answers out of a child. I, and that's just me personally. Yeah, we've all known look, I'm a woman. We all know, and I have a brother. We all know the horror stories of women who use their kids like pawns, who will, you know, say one thing and then, act another way. Their ex is a good dad. He tries and they still want to go after things. So, and we all know dads that are terrible and don't do a doggone thing. So it, yeah, it, I'll be looking for that to see. Now I will want you to keep in mind, and John, this is just a thought, but a lot of us have issues that you can't see. So I have, a medical condition that you just won't be able to see. and, until you see me walk or something, and then you're like, "Well, she's got an odd hitch in her get along." But, he would have to be capable, so he has a minivan, right? And minivans, I'm guessing, are about when we had a minivan and not the Ford Transit, it's about 18 to 24 inches off the ground just for the trunk. So, if he had backed up all the way to the sliding glass door, and I'm just making this up in my head, he still would have had to deadlift, farmer's carry, and then have the doors open. I mean, it it is, so it could be possible, but I don't know. It it just it beggars belief, and when things beggar belief, I want answers. If they can show that Zach, did a bunch of, like, weightlifting and he was a, undercover strongman. Okay. Well, again, or it could suggest that he worked to support his family and did what he had to do. Okay, that's good to know. I am taking notes, and I'm like I said, these are well, I'm sorry that you're watching to annoy yourself, but again, as a juror, these would be questions that I would want answered, when I was doing them because having watched all these, uh, legal cases, w w I start to get a little spider tingly sense when the prosecution says, "So and so felt." I want evidence in the opening statement. At the end, closing statements, you can tell me how everyone felt, but I want logic.
Of course, continues. Rosalio's vehicles are still at the residence. His keys are there. There is a large amount of blood all over his residence in several rooms. The outer hallway, including outer hallway in a way, suggests that door opening into the hallway was open at a time when significant bleeding happened, including sprayed blood that looks like it's impact type of blood. There's blood then right inside the door, as if someone is now in the apartment and they are continuing to have some sort of intervention or attack happen where their blood is spraying. That blood is all over that now closed door on that interior. It is all over the rug area there and on the walls and on the tables. It extends to the dining room table. It extends to the chairs on the dining room table. Some of it
Wait.
hits the laptop.
They did no testing of any of the blood? The spray blood. Okay, so again, and this is just a concept from books and, trials that I've watched before. If you are using a stabulating weapon, if it does not have a hilt, like we saw in the Joel Guy Jr. case, you are more likely to cut your own murder mittens than, just only injuring the other person because generally there's a struggle. Excuse me. Okay. So if he was and there's spray blood, I mean, generally you would leave something in there if he is opening doors to clear a path to bring someone out. I mean, unless he wore gloves. But right now I need more. So, okay. So did they have any of Zach's DNA in the apartment? Oh, okay, that's not. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people do what they have to do. I'm lucky that I'm a stay-at-home mom, but there are still days with what I deal with that I can't do as much. So, yeah, I'll keep an eye out and look for it, uh, because I can see kind of where you shift a little bit and you take some deep breaths and you're just a little maybe stiffer?
Some of it is in the kitchen counter. Some of it is pooled blood throughout that area where you are first in the entrance. There is a small stick of processed wood, like a baseball bat or some other hard object. It's not a log. It's not a piece of cut timber. That piece of wood ends up having blood on it, which is found to be the blood of Rosalio Gutierrez, and hair on it as well, which is also found to be Rosalio Gutierrez. There is
I had to
significant
turn it
blood
down a
on the
little bit.
curtains, which are on the entire other end of the apartment from where that entrance to the hallway comes. There is blood on the fan. There's blood on the ceiling in multiple rooms of this apartment.
Okay. So did they test the processed piece of wood? I mean, was it, you know, my husband's doing construction right now. Is it like the fiber, where they take all the little chippy pieces of wood and they glue them together and they make a board out of it? Um, Manufacturer something, something, or was it consistent with being a baseball bat? Did it look like it was cured lumber? Was it from a door or you're not a chair? Again, this is why Mr. Mo won't watch movies with me because I'm like, I need to understand what is going on.
There is pooled and seeped blood into the carpet in the living room on the floor area, and seeped blood, a significant quantity of seeped blood on the couch that is the primary couch in that living room. And in the middle of the area by the couch, there is a
Question, did Sadie go into the scene or did she stay outside once calling 911? The prosecutor made it sound like she kind of just stayed at the patio doors, but do we know if she went in and touched and or moved anything?
a missing area where there's blood surrounding it, but then there's a rectangled off area that has no blood whatsoever. It's pristine, which certainly suggests to anybody who looks at it that an area rug, a medium sort of size area rug,
Of course.
was there when significant bleeding happened and is now missing from that apartment. There are little splinters of wood on the couch that are also there, interspersed in the blood and interspersed in hair that is located, strands of hair located on that couch as well. Law enforcement tests several locations at various places. You'll hear where they tested. Each time they tested and they found that it was blood, each of those times the blood came from one individual, and that was Rosalio Gutierrez. You will hear that the blood is sprayed, meaning there was impact in multiple locations and multiple different times based on where the blood is located and how the blood presents or looks.
Okay, so thus far we have Gravely saying that I'm going to hear about blood pooled, blood seeped, blood sprayed, and a pattern going down the hallway. Um, so that's indicative of having, I mean, there's movement there. But if they didn't test most of it, I don't know. It's just, I'm just taking notes to make sure I've got all the different kinds of bloods technically we're supposed to be able to find.
Law enforcement is present. Remember, present 2 days, about a day and a half after the event.
Okay, wait. So it's a day and a half
Again, that
after this happened. So blood has seeped. Now I've heard somewhere someone was talking about blood was still liquid. So how can you, well, I can see how stuff would seep. But they're alleging that basically as soon as he stopped answering his text, Zach went in there, took care of it, and then for 2 days, the scene sat like this with all the blood and everything else. Yeah, I mean, it's proving that there was something that went on to make sure for sure in the apartment.
Area rug is completely missing. You'll hear that you might hear some testimony about something called arterial spray, where there's a finer, misty place there too. So some of what you might hear is blunt force trauma, hard objects hitting a bleeding surface. Some areas that you might hear about are more likely, or at least are possible areas where maybe a knife or some sharp object penetrated someone as opposed to blunt force. Rosalio's own phone records say
Okay,
that
when we get
he
there,
dropped his kids off
I will
because he had them that weekend. He dropped them off on the 17th. And then he went home, and he was home by 9:08 p.m. So just within an hour of when
give me a
he's
little bit of a
never seen
warning when the
again.
other trial's coming
Opened a
on.
beer, drank a
Then
beer. I
I'll
think maybe opened a
close it
second
off for the
beer.
day.
Was expecting this Miss Macias to arrive. His TV was on, and his phone it goes off at 10:30 p.m. around, and that's found several days later, hidden in his freezer. His phone and his credit cards are behind all the items in his freezer, hidden there. In the cold, the phone goes off. The last time that phone is on in any way, shape, or form is around 10:30 p.m. on the 17th. Rosalio's keys are there. His wallet has ended up on the couch over some areas that already had blood, so it was placed there after the bleeding occurred. As I said, his credit cards were found in the apartment. There's been no evidence that his credit cards or his bank accounts or any other identifying pieces of that type have been used ever in the 1,018 days since. The home, you'll see the pictures, is filled with pictures of his two children, 11 and 8. He didn't miss gymnastic events. He was an enthusiastic baseball coach for his 11-year-old. You will hear electronic media talk about his excitement and planning for his coaching of his 11-year-old that will be starting literally just.
Okay, did anyone test Zach's shoes, clothes? Oh, so they're saying that he burned his clothes to just yeah, but if you sit down and I mean, he'd basically have to. So I get done stabulating and bashing someone. I realize I take him to the car, put him in. I realize that I'm covered in junk, so I take that off at the crime scene maybe, put it into a bag, have other clothes I change into because if I sit with those clothes on my car seat, that would have a blood transfer. I don't know. That's the only way I could figure out how to do that, and yeah, this is all sounding a whole lot. Okay. Well, yeah, I understand the shoes and clothes, but John Gary, here's what I'm asking. Do you believe that Zach had an extra set of clothes? Because if he was done with all the attackerating and everything, he would have all that spray on him. He'd have blowback. So he'd have to get naked in the apartment, have extra clothes because he's gonna sit on his car seat unless he had a towel with him, I guess. I don't know. I've not ever really thought that one through, so gonna have to excuse me while I try to think of these things. Oh, well, yeah, I mean, we are in the out of town, and we may use our cardboard to roast marshmallows occasionally. It's just it's how you would have to do things. I like thinking about how you would have to do things to make all the evidence line up, and I can't even remember to take my doggone reusable, shopping bags in to normal Walmart days. So, I'm just saying, if you would have to be a thorough planner to have thought of all these things. Sa Look, ma'am, we had lice one year, and I was about to burn the entire house down, allegedly.
Days, certainly weeks. Baseball season is right around the corner, and watching his son play baseball was one of the true pleasures of his life. 2
Yeah,
days
Mr. Mo
after
said
he
I
is
can't lie
gone,
anymore.
he has in his date book, his planner, that he is going to be at Camp Timberlee with his children. Some of you may know that local summer camp. That's a 2-day. That's an experience that's supposed to occur on May 19th, just 2 days after this. He never arrives. He never accounts for this with his kids. Obviously, he never coaches baseball. In fact, neither of his kids, who talk to him all the time.
And like I said, again, regardless of anything, a family has lost their loved one. Kids are going without a dad, and that is a hard thing as a mom to have to explain to young kids, the permanence of death and everything. I've been there. It's terrible, and I want answers for these kids. And if Zachariah is the answer or isn't, regardless of how I feel at the end, it's oh, well, I I don't know him as a person. I'll take your word for it, Solomon. Look, y'all, I am just trying to be Sally Jesse Raphael right now because my hair is turning redder by the moment. Yeah, I mean, it would take a sort of if I'm putting up my pretend FBI investigator hat on, it would take a lot of people had lost everyone. Look, this is a tragedy all around, no matter how you slice it. I'm not close enough to 2 hours. It sucks the big one, okay? For all things, but I want the truth. That's why it pisses me off with the Delphi case. That's why, the Scott Peterson, not that Scott Peterson, the only one T, uh, oh gosh, the, deputy for the, uh, high school down there, oh gosh, Parkland High School. It really does tick me off when prosecutors use emotions because emotions are really powerful things, and we are supposed to be about facts and proving them. And to get to the truth, we're supposed to get to justice, not to, find a guy, not to get vengeance, to get justice. And so much of this has turned into political hit, vengeance. We found someone, we're done kind of thing.
Who saw him every week, who were in contact with him multiple times a week. You'll hear that his 11-year-old son spoke to him during this time period multiple times per day. And there was never another split second of communication, and has not been for 1,018 days. He has missed their birthdays. He and his mother had a very close relationship, very close. And he has missed all of her important occasions in the last 1,018 days. And the kids he was so devoted for. Never, ever before missed these occasions. Never before, ever out of touch his entire life with the people who cared about him. And not a peep from him since. So I'm back to who the police should go to first. The defendant has actively admitted to Sadie that he is jealous that he has admitted to.
Okay, are these admissions just Sadie saying it? I mean, are there texts that say, "I'm so jealous, you're moving on"? I need I need not Sadie's word for it. I'm guessing I'm not gonna get not
He's
Sadie's
admitted
word
to
for it.
Sadie and then finally to law enforcement that he took his 11-year-old, as I mentioned, to the mom's home. He has a recording of that incident in his phone, brief recording of that in his phone. And so law enforcement certainly focuses on the person who has documented motive and jealousy documented. All of this is interesting because it happens while the defendant, according to a woman, his girlfriend, Christine Remsburg, is literally living or staying 4 or 5 nights a week.
It was all the figurines. I may or may not have a lot of Sailor Moon figurines. I didn't even get to watch the end of it because kids shenanigans. So I didn't even hear my own shout out. No, I was just like, "Oh, person with action figures."
At his girlfriend's home. So what I'm describing to you are things
Okay.
he is doing only when he has his kids over, if he is actually traveling around, or he is doing it despite the fact he continues to have this relationship with, when she's interviewed in May of 2020, she says this relationship has been going on about a year and that he spends 4 to 5 nights a week at her house.
Wait a minute, so she lied about the relationship to Zach? Woman, you're beginning to tick me off because you let your children be used for an investigation, and I heard the sentencing. I mean, that little girl, their little girl, Olivia, she has been so hurt by all of this. Um, she's lost respect for her parents. I mean, uh, we often forget the kind of ripple effect victims, but I mean, those poor kids, I'm sure that Sadie's character is sounding interesting. Um, I'm trying not to make assumptions right now because I haven't heard her speak yet. Uh, but again, I mean, her kids have now had to go through so much as far as, you know, interviews and this and that, and having to be caught up in very adult sort of problems as kids. And it really irritates me when kids get drawn into adult problems because adults want to make them a part of them. I don't know what this is, but okay. Yeah, so these kids, I mean, there are a lot of ripple victims. I mean, we don't think, sometimes we watch a trial and we don't think about all of these different victims. I mean, if Sadie is manipulative and stuff and she's done this all through her entire life, then there are just pathways of people that she has done that. If Gravely has done this kind of trialing before, then there are pathways of people that he may have, railroaded. I just again, I'm still hearing a lot of feelings.
The motive for the defendant is to end this relationship and to do anything he must to stay in control. So the defendant has his kids on this weekend of May 16th and 17th, right? This is the fateful weekend. Sadie picks those kids up in the afternoon. So in the late afternoon, she picks those kids up. And the daughter will tell you, 12 years old, the back of my dad's van, his minivan, which he used to transport us on the afternoon of the 17th, so the same day this happens, was normal. There were no bleach stains and no problems with the carpet in the back of his minivan when she last saw it on the afternoon of the 17th. So now the question is, what is the evidence that the defendant prepared for this attack, this murder? Well, one of the things he did was on May 15th, he took out $50,000 in cash from his account. When law enforcement gets there, he still has more than $46,000 in cash. You're going to see pictures of the bank bag, literally all the money still bound.
Okay, some companies like construction and stuff kind of operate on a cash basis. If you're doing, um, you know, let's say you're doing a small business, most things go by cash. Say you're doing antiquing or restoring or anything else. I mean, people use cards, but if you're going yard sale, look, I'm just saying there are reasons to pull out cash that I don't know, maybe aren't suspicioso.
Together. So he's got that, and the state will suggest to you that's in case anything goes wrong. He can make that quick run to some location to be out of harm's way or out of apprehension with that much money on hand. You'll hear the daughter indicate that when she left on Sunday afternoon, just hours before Rosalio Gutierrez is gone, that she saw rope and duct tape, new rope and new duct tape down in his basement. It was down on top of essentially a wheelie, a desk chair that's down there. When law enforcement gets to this location on the 19th, there is a wheelie chair down there in the basement. The daughter is completely.
Okay, y'all, we just got duct tape and, uh, you know, tie ropes to do some things around the house. I mean, and I'm gonna call BS. I am going to call BS. My 12-year-old would not notice if we had a crane in the kitchen or, a freaking unicorn if she was on her pad. I'm just saying, maybe this 12-year-old is different, but I'm saying that my 12-year-olds are oblivious to things like picking up forks off the floor, bringing dishes back, doing laundry, their room stinks. Show me a 12-year-old that's going to notice that dad has some duct tape and rope on a table. Y I'm just saying that I am pressing X to doubt that a 12-year-old would notice anything. My 12-year-olds are oblivious unless I tell them stuff. That is I have no idea. It's a bit hard to write down notes for cereal. It's kind of hard to write notes and, do the chat, so I might miss certain things. Ah, well, that's my thing. Now, I might have noticed because I was a truly odd child, just very odd. I had a deep and abiding crush on Alex Trebek from Jeopardy because he had all the answers and that awesome mustache. So, I might have, but yeah, I really, like I said, I am not a lawyer, so I will have to look up what Denny motions are because right now I'm a little hungry, so I'm thinking Denny's motions, which pancakes are awesome when you can't have carbs. Oh, wow. Y Yeah, believe me, my face is all caps. This is why I can never be accused of anything, a lawyer or a juror. Yeah, and I mean, so Katie or Sadie, I would think would have a motive too because, she finds out there's other women. Now, if it's somewhat implausible that Zach could carry largest a large fluffy man out of a thing. I'm sure that Sadie would need a bunch of help unless she knew Dominique and she said that they disrespected her. Then maybe around 12 o'clock. Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, I will definitely have to um, look at those if they let them out. I don't
Right
know how
about
long it
that.
takes to
But no rope, no new rope,
publicize
and
the
no new duct tape.
transcripts.
So the state would suggest to you that is ideal stuff if you think you need to move a person bleeding, dead, if you need to seal up a carpet, try to prevent as much bleeding as you possibly can from the body of the person you're removing from his own apartment. During this period of time, there is an extremely heavy rain going on in Kenosha and in the Milwaukee area. Very heavy rain. And so people are not out and about, obviously, in the same way they normally would be. Another way that the defendant prepares is when we
Wait,
go
so
into his
he
multiple
prepared by
phones.
knowing it was going to rain heavily? Sir, I need you to keep, like, look, I am a tangent of tangent person. Like, I will go off into the weeds. But if I am a state prosecutor, rain does not belong in the same sort of paragraph that you're doing when explaining the things that are the evidence that proves that he was preparing for a murder, unless he did a rain dance before. If so, I need to learn the anti-rain dance because rain really messes with my nerves now.
We find that the phone he usually uses to contact people, the phone that he usually uses in situations, is not being answered, though it is just before and just after, but not being answered from 7:30 p.m. to 11:19 p.m. Left behind the phone that had smart capabilities that would be tracked, left that behind, and so was not able to answer the calls and the texts that come from multiple people, including his girlfriend, Christine Remsburg, who tries to contact him multiple times because she is expecting him in those evening hours to come over. She's talking about what they're going to have for dinner. She's talking about what movie they're going to watch. And finally, she basically, sometime before 11:19 p.m., says, okay, I'm going to bed. She's expected him. And he never shows up at her house and never gives her an explanation until after he would have time to drive from his home in Mequon to Kenosha, commit this crime, and get back to the Mequon area, grab up the phone that he hasn't been answering, and now texts her and says, oh, sorry, fell asleep. Fell asleep during the exact hours that...
Okay, so they're using it's impossible to think that Thor, what are you doing? Would you stop? I'm trying to do work. Could you just for not? Oh. Okay, sorry, cat ass.
Rosalio Gutierrez is never seen again. And then has a very long conversation.
Okay, so it's not within the realm of possible. Look, I forget all the things. So maybe he forgot his phone. Maybe he did fall asleep. Lord knows I have been known to fall asleep, and on streams I leave my phone on silent and then I forget to unsilent it and I've missed calls. Do they have GPS of where the super duper smartphone was supposed to be? Do we know? I need all the questions answered. If I have to become a private investigator, y'all, I'm gonna be very upset and I'm buying another wig. I don't even know how to work wigs, but I'm going to do it.
With her, like a 42-minute conversation with her from midnight to 12:49. Maybe trying to get back in
got
her
up from a
good
nap.
graces. Because she's back with him the next night. She comes to his house for one of the very first times she's ever come to his house. She comes to his house that night the next night, and then the night after that, which is the night he's apprehended. So then I want to talk about the cover-up, because a lot of times the way you can tell that somebody's responsible for something is their cover-up, right? That's a common way of determining
Okay.
somebody.
So wait, all that he said that he had for planning, if I've got this in it's the last little paragraph. So he had the thesis statement of these are the things that Zach, planned out because he was going to do this dastardly deed. The evidence, what he said was pulled out money. Most of it was left. His daughter said that she found rope and duct tape and that he did not answer his phone for a period of 2 hours. So those are the things. Okay. I mean, at least Joel Guy Jr. had an entire notebook. I don't know.
Did something really bad. So officers get to the defendant in the evening hours. And so it's been 2 full days since Rosalio Gutierrez is gone to everyone who knows him. And prior to police getting there, a close couple of buddies of Rosalio Gutierrez who have heard Rosalio Gutierrez say, hey, I've got this new woman I'm seeing. Her name is Sadie. She's got a crazy ex-boyfriend, and maybe even that he broke in my truck one time, right? So when Rosalio Gutierrez is missing, and the friend group begins to understand this, Michael Campbell is the type of friend who will drive to the person's house where that is suspected in his mind and just go and try to confront the guy. And so he and his buddy go there and they beat the police there because the police are still, doing the police things. And they bring up, hey, our buddy Rosalio is missing. Do you know anything about this? And the defendant claims he's not his brother, claims he's not Zacariah Anderson. He claims he's his brother. He calls the cops. By then, these guys have already left. They're not trying to fight anybody or anything else. They're simply trying to ask a question. This guy's
Okay.
clearly not.
John Gary, I do have a question for you. And so say I just committed a murder of which I do not want to be caught for, and I've gone through many, many levels of trying to hide this, including cutting out carpet, as you say, and doing all these and burning all these things. Why would I ever involve the cops on anything? I would not call the cops if people came over to threaten me. I would not want the cops anywhere near me. I wouldn't want them linking me to this case beyond my crazy ex. I don't know. I that just that just yeah, okay. If it is in the time of the COVID time, uh, then yeah, bleach wipes. You guys, I'm going to give you a tip. It is a large family mama tip. Uh, in the laundry section, there are little bleach tablets, and yes, I know I made the okay sign, and you can just drop them into a bottle of water or like a spray bottle, and then you have cleaning bleach, and you don't have to buy big jugs. All right, the other trial is going to get ready to start soon, and it has been nearly 2 hours. Yeah, I'm just saying the bleach tabs are awesome if you want to stock up on, bleach, but you don't want to stock big jugs. And so that is kind of where I'm going to take down the timestamp also because this man's voice is giving me a migraine. Um, and I have the timestamp. So we will continue this on Friday. I'm going to try to have a longer stream. I will probably start in the afternoon just because, or no, I will probably start in the evening. because I have to drop having 6 kids is a bit like juggling burning lamps and also chainsaws. So, I will probably have it, starting at 6 on Friday night. I know Nicholas has his thing, or I might do a super long one on or on Saturday. I'm still working on that. I will give you guys an update about when I will be doing my next trial stream. I might try to do it Friday at lunchtime like I did now. Yeah, things aren't adding up very much. I've got 7 pages that I'm going to be transferring into um, typing. And thank you guys for giving me all these answers and helping me with some of the things that are going on in the case. Because, like I said, I have come in and it's like when you first start, watching, like, say, Lord of the Rings or something, and you didn't say maybe you were a bit of a, late to the, fun things on things with deep lore, and you get in and you're like, oh, there's an a bunch of stuff I didn't know. So I really like going back and, writing down my questions. I'm not sure that my notes are crazy, but also the way my mind works is I don't like I don't like logic holes. I don't like loopholes. I don't like plot holes. They make me ticked off. They make me irritated. And again, this is why Mr. Mo will not watch movies with me anymore unless he wants Mystery Mo theater most of the time. But I will I have the stop time at 56 minutes and 5 seconds, and we will continue, and hopefully this man will stop talking soon because his I don't know if it's his cadence or the loudness of his voice. There's something that's very jarring to me. So I will be putting that in both the Discord and my Twitter. I will probably try to do it on a lunchtime stream on Friday. If the court in the current Border Patrol agent case tends to do really long lunches, I will speed it up to 1.25 uh, just because I don't know that I can deal with this man on normal speed. Yeah, he has a yelling cadence and I don't like it. But be sure to like and subscribe. I have a let me hide this. I have a Twitter. Now I do. I'm still learning how to do it. I jumped into the internet without any idea what to do. So, I have all of those. If you have questions, I do not have a Discord, but I think Zachariah and Free Zachariah Anderson has a Discord and Jungmin. I don't know. Ask Jungmin. I am a terrible. I have not set up a Discord, y'all. I have been on the internet for only about 2 months. I mean, YouTube. Okay, stop, Thor. You are a cuddle whore, and it's getting bad. Um, but I will try to do my best to get info out there on my next stream, but I will try to do these Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. That will be what I will do. Have a good day. Do one difficult thing today. Today, well, mine was this stream because I have not always been comfy with the name Zachariah in about 15 years. So I'm liking this case and I am glad that I am getting to see it all with you guys. And I will see you later. Bye, guys.